Well, folks, my guest this week is someone who has never let any obstacle before her stop her path to success. She is part of a short list of women who have paved the road for women in professional wrestling in what now has become a superhighway of opportunity for females in sports entertainment. But she didn't stop there. Again, taking on another male-dominated industry, monster trucks, where she also became a champion. And we'll get to all that and much more. But first, I want to welcome Deborah Maselli, as she was born with that name, but she's better known as Madusa. Also, you know her as Alundra Blayze from the WWE, and also WWE Hall of Famer. Deborah, thank you so much for coming on Primetime. How are you?
Thank you. And oh my gosh, finally, right? So before we start taping this, you're like, it has only taken us a couple years to do this interview.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, I've seen you in a couple of events. I saw last time at StarCast, and you have so much going on. So that's where I want to start. Let's start there. And I know that you've been in the podcast world, and you've got something new going on. You're calling it Paving the Way. First, tell me about that. I know it's very inspirational, very motivational. Tell me about it.
Okay, so just to back up a step,
Yeah.
we were talking about dogs beforehand, and I've done a lot of stuff. So I do have a toy poodle. She's only three pounds, and she's a year old. Yeah. And I had two toy poodles before that, and she lived to be about 17, and she had cancer. Mm-hmm. So. And I was told that she was only going to live 3 months. And I was like, are you kidding me? She was only like 7 years old at the time, or 10. And I was like, no way, I'm not ready to lose her. So he said, better get things in order. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to put my dog through all that stuff because I wouldn't put myself through that. So I did everything. I did my diligence. And my girlfriend's a holistic vet back. And, I was living in Texas at the time because my husband is military, and we were stationed at Fort Bliss in the Army. So I called my girlfriend back in Citrus County, and she's a homeopath vet, and she said, I need blood work with this and this and this. Anyway, fast forward, she lived until she was 17, and we changed everything, and she wasn't on drugs, just a lot of homeopaths. So it does work. It's amazing, and from my love of dogs. And the reason why I'm going there is that it's part of my life. It's part of what I do. It's part of what I dabble in. So for a long time, I had my own brick and mortar grooming shop, and I put myself through school through my wrestling days and monster truck days, because I knew that it wasn't going to last forever. And I knew that I wanted to do something that I loved, and I loved animals. So I put myself through grooming school and then master grooming for show dogs. So I opened up my own shop. It's called Cool Cats and Hot Dogs. And it's so cute because I groom cats too. It's like the only one in the county that groom cats.
I was going to say, how do you
they're crazy. They're crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, they're nuts. But there's a lot of cats you'd be surprised that love get to bath. And then we dry them and then shave them, and we shaved them down because of the dander and whatnot. And that we shaved them so they looked like a lion. So they had the big lion hair and like the little puff on their paws, kind of like Natty does with her cats. I was doing that 20 years ago. Mm. And then inside the shop, there was an organic doggy bakery. But we ended up closing it because we moved to Germany for the military, which I totally love. I gained so much weight because the pretzels and beer were fantastic. And, oh, my God. And so, but I tried to keep it open. But if you've ever owned a business, it's nobody treats it like you do. And, I mean, to me, customer service is everything. And it was going downhill quick, and so I had to close it. So now, to give back, I groom for the military for free, like friends or family or for around the community. If they say, hey, Deuce, can you groom my dog? I'm like, yeah, okay. If it's for military, I'll groom for free. And then intermittently, I'll groom just to keep my practice up. So I wanted to start there because you and I talked about animals. Yeah. And yes, I do have a lot going on, but it's kind of like that secret empire. So my whole life, and it's so funny, I'm glad you asked me this, because I was just reminiscing with my husband about healing. And what does almost a 60-year-old woman do as far as a transition to make herself relevant in such a young entertainment sport? The demographics are not as large and older, I think, as much as it is between the 18 and 32-year-olds, for the fan base.
Right.
And in monster trucks, the demographics were amazing. I had little 3-year-olds all the way up to 99-year-olds. So my fan base covers from 3 to 99. So it's like, how do you interact with such a huge fan base? And and I figured it out, like, you do what you love, and you keep moving on, right? Pushing through. So I was looking at here lately at all of this young talent and all the great opportunities they have today where it was not available back, when I was in the business, and trying to get something so amazing like they're able to now, and people just coming to them, wanting them to, rep their product, or let's make a product after you. And it's just so cool to see how it's not easy, but it's so much there for you. So anybody that can't do anything after pro wrestling or any entertainment industry, especially ours, afterwards is just crazily insane, not branding themselves correctly. And like, I remember back in the day, I've always wanted my own wine, or I've always wanted my own perfume. I always wanted to do my own autobiography. And trying to do it on your own, 40 years ago was not heard of.
Right.
Absolutely. And I had this all laid out in these ideas, and was so ahead of my time, Sean. My God, as far as people say, the legacy of Madusa is like going to Japan, living there 3 years, having a contract, which was unheard of for the first time for an American woman, and then coming back and, reinventing Madusa. And it was, and then my career started taking off. But in between all of that, it was always trying to survive and struggle. But yet I had these big dreams as far as marketing and branding. But I was doing really well as far as marketing and branding my name, keeping it big, keeping it out there. But I've always wanted those extra trinkets. And now I'm able to put that all together, but I don't have the huge machine or wheelhouse, or, I'm not the young talent that makes all that, the big money or the marketing that's behind you to do so. So what do? Do you sit back and say, oh, well, with me? No, you become creative, and you find the other avenues to do so. And I would teach these kids, because I teach, I'm giving a seminar this weekend to some fellow colleagues wrestling. A lot of independent wrestling organizations will hit me up and say, hey, Deuce, will you do your seminar? And it's called Kick, Wrestle, and Roll. And it's about branding. I teach them the forbidden truth that we never were taught, and it's still not really embedded or taught. That is, I teach them about finance. I teach them about legalities, trademarks, lawyer, health insurance, term life, everything. And the basis of what could and couldn't happen, and just a lot of good nuggets. And so that's kind of like what I do for fun on the outside when I do personal appearances. Like when I go to StarCast, I tried implementing my Paving the Way new podcast, and to, full circle back when you wanted to start this podcast. I mean, the interview is, I did have a podcast called Full Throttle. Right. And I absolutely love it. It's a way to get creative and interview people and know them and get to know their story. But I did it for a year and a half, and I was just banging my head because I didn't have that wheelhouse, and I just jumped into it, just like, facing fear. And I liked that because it motivated me, and I really learned a lot. And I kept up at it for about a year and a half, and I just said, screw it. My heart isn't in it. I'm sick of talking just like wrestling. I want to expand. I want to be me. I need to do me. Now, if it's about wrestling and people involved in it, then that's fine. But I just didn't want 24/7 wrestling. Yeah. There was something more there for me. So that's when I started Paving the Way, and that's my niche. Paving the Way is about every walk of life, every person, you, me, my mother, the cart pusher, and the dog walker. Because, Sean, everybody has a story, and it's beautiful and it's unique. And nowadays, with the opportunities, we can turn that small story into a web series, into a documentary, into a motion picture. And that's what's so cool. And that's what, you know, a lot of people are doing. And so I'm seeing what's happening, and that's kind of like all of this is coming to fruition. So yes, with everything working, I've got a whole line of stuff coming out, but I'm trying to do it strategic because it's my own money, it's my own wheelhouse, it's my own marketing. I don't have a machine behind me to do it, and I'm 56 years old, so I have to think about what my demographic is. You know, I'm back with the WWE as far as, you know, Hall of Famer, a Legends contract, and I'm with 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds. But they're not excited to see a 56-year-old woman all the time. You know what I'm saying? Their fan base. So I've got to learn how to implement my beliefs, my love, my career, my message on what I want to put out there and what I'm so passionate about. So does that start off the interview good?
Yeah, no, 12 minutes in or 14 minutes in, yeah. But you mentioned, though, paving the way, and I listened to a few of them, and they're these, they're not long, these short messages, but they're, very inspirational, and you talk about different aspects of what people might be dealing with in their lives, and man, you certainly have traveled the road to be, an authority on all of that. But when I look back, and I know that right now you're also trying to put together, a documentary. I think it's your Personal Revolution series, and folks, you ought to check it out at indiegogo.com. That's just another one of your projects. But I look back at your life, and I have to imagine, because you were born a few years after me, but that period of time in life, how exciting, first of all, for you to blaze a trail, to be on this road, but at the same time, how tough it must have been for you along the way, because there were so many roadblocks. And we see today now that you can do these things because of the internet and all these opportunities that you can really self-start. But back then for you, and I was just like, what was this person like as a kid? And you describe yourself in Minnesota, but I really, tell me about who that kid was when you were growing up.
Oh, you're funny. Well, okay, so being an only child and having a distant relationship with my mother, and never knowing who my father was, and my father never knew I existed. He never knew I was born, and I never knew I had, who he was. And so that alone, to tell you kind of the basis of this little girl. So, and we were on, welfare and food stamps. I remember those days. And, I'm sure my mother tried and did the best she could at, increment levels of life. And I'll save that all for the, story. And she's my mother, and no matter what, I love her. But we went through some things, and it totally changed my view and the trajectory of a child on which path I took. Somehow, some way, Sean, because I never had that mentor, that man in my life, you know what I'm saying, that did me right, and to show me the way. And it was always, what did they say? Fight or flight, fight or fight, fight.
Yeah,
fight or flight,
you fought.
I believe. And I did that coming out of the womb. And, from, being born and busting my mother's tailbone as I was born and fighting my way out, it was hell. And I tried to find my way from a little girl getting beat up at the bus stop every day and just not understanding, and always being independent. I was creative. I was very athletic. And I knew that the athleticism is what saved me, being in sports and keeping out there, because I didn't have any other outlets. Yeah. And Yes, and of course, being in Minnesota, we were 8 months frozen, so all I did was ice skate,
Right.
and ice fish and whatnot. So I remember that I never wanted to be like that and struggle, and the hardships that my mother had to go through, and it scared me to death so much that at 14 I got my first job at Arby's. I think it was for $1.70 or $2.70 an hour, and and worked my way from there. And then it's just an amazing story. There's a lot of trauma, trial, just tragedies to triumphs, and it's a feel good, story at the end of the day. And it's educating. I really want people to know that this is something that they can watch with their kids, and then talk to them and educate them, and use it as a tool, experimental, to help them understand decision making, life's ups and downs, and if you don't, or if you do or don't make a decision, this could or couldn't happen. Use this as a tool.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's going to be very educational and fun. It'll make you laugh, cry, maybe piss you off in some of it.
Yeah.
But meaning in a way that because you're so heartfelt in it. I have an amazing team behind me. That it's it may take us a little while to get it, but as soon as our funds are able, we can finish it. And then it's kind of like a start to the marketing of the biography. And the biography is going to be done so different, Sean, than anything you've ever seen. It's really cool. Again, one of my ideas, but I haven't seen anybody do it this way at all yet.
Well, that's great.
The way I have planned.
You mentioned, growing up, and I came from a family where my father was absent, and it's a hole in you forever. And I could see from your viewpoint though here, because whether and I look back at it now, I mean, it was a great, attribute. I mean, because it made me want to succeed and show people that I wasn't trash or I wasn't worth something.
Right.
And you're always trying to prove, no matter what. I mean, you're trying to look for that approval, whether it was from your mother or a father you never met.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that you saw. Is that what really drove you early on? That you remember that you said, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to end up in a life where I'm struggling.
Right, and I just feel like my husband will tell you firsthand that I am, I work 24/7, and it's hard for me to find that neutral. But I learned to do that a few years ago when I went and lived on an island and lived in a tent for about 8 to 10 weeks, and I became a yogi, and I needed that more than anything, and I became a yoga instructor as well. But that was the best thing that happened in my life, because I always felt like I had to prove that I was somebody to myself. Not that I needed to prove to anybody else, but it was the fear of looking back and not being that or not having that,
But it's also never enough, right? I mean, it's also never enough because you're looking. I mean, you talk about like what you do, and it just comes out. Yeah, and then I did this, and then I became a yogi, and people, there's stuff that people wouldn't accomplish in 30 years of their lives. You've done in a couple of years. I mean, when it all comes out, and it's just amazing. It's never enough. But you found that path.
Wait till you hear more. Hear more. It's crazy, the crap that I had, the diplomas, the certifications, and it's just like I just keep going and going and going. But it's because I have an interest. It's not that I'm trying to prove and I'm trying to keep score. It's not about that. It's not. Life's accomplishments are not about a score keeping. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's just that it's my fuel. And I've always wanted, I couldn't tell you, my husband had the most amazing mother, and she passed away because of cancer. And his father died right before I met my husband. And so I told him the other day, I broke down and I was saying, I would have given anything, to have what you had, just to have the love just to have my mother tell me she loved me one time, or to have a father around just to show me something that I didn't have to teach on my own, teaching myself to change the oil in my Harley or something, just to have a father to show me the ropes when it was hard. I will never experience that. I wouldn't know. I don't know what it's like to listen to that. I don't even know what it's like to send a Father's Day card.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird? That's just weird. Yeah. Never have a birthday card from a dad saying I love you. So those are the things that growing up I just was looking at, and just it was such a void, and trying to block it out and just go forward. That's why I succeeded the way I have in forms that where when you say, and so many people say, you were ahead of time, you succeeded in this at a time that you shouldn't have. I've hit my pinnacle how many times when I shouldn't have, and I'm still here. I'm not a drunk. I'm not a drug addict. I haven't, sold myself or my soul, and I can hold my head up high. And I'm just so lucky, just lucky. And that's what that story's about. It's just amazing. I wish I could just step out and look at it like it's not me. I'd be like, holy crap, how did that kid do it? So anyway, that's what that's about.
Yeah. Well, and wrestling was a huge part of it. And
oh my God, that helped me so bad.
Yeah. Huh?
I said that helped me so bad. Thank God, because.
That's one of the reasons I really wanted to have this conversation with you, because, like we said at the top of this discussion, I said there's so many opportunities for women now in sports entertainment. But back then, and especially when you started coming in, and I was working with the WWF at the time, and saw, it was a sideshow, women coming in, and it wasn't like they weren't working, but it was a sideshow, and I really wanted to be able to talk about that today, because I don't know if you realize the impact you had, but
I don't.
I think people need to understand what it was like when you came in.
Oh, thanks. Thanks. But you know what? When I hear that,
I witnessed it. I saw all that going on at the time.
I know you saw a lot, and I did too back then. And there's some things my story and my biography is not a tattletale book, and there's stuff I wouldn't even share or say because it's no one's business. You know what I mean? Because this is a story about me and my life and the triumph. So those hard times, some of them will be mentioned because of my doings or what I had to go through, not the shit that I saw. Not the things that a lot of people want to hear. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Of the nuggets about other people. It's not about that. It's about some of the transitioning into that, yes. But when you say you had such an impact and you changed this and that, it's very hard for me to hear. And I never thought anyone respected me. I didn't think anyone liked me. I did my job. I retired at 2001, and I didn't have a thing with wrestling. I never watched it one day. I closed the door. I went on. I moved on, and I did monster trucks for 18 years. And then I got a call to be inducted in the Hall of Fame in 2015, and I was scared to freaking death.
Yeah.
I was more scared to come back and meet everybody only for the fear of how they would and would not accept me. I was more scared than that than giving my damn speech. And I never, thank God. Of course I was frightened giving my speech, even though I was still entertaining 60,000 people with the monster trucks and hitting the mic every weekend.
Yeah.
But the person that had the biggest balls was Mick Foley. And when he came forward and said, Deuce, I apologize. I'm like, out of the blue. I'm like, for what? He goes, I drank the Kool-Aid. And I said, what? He goes, I drank the Kool-Aid, and that was just, believing and hanging and saying and doing whatever everyone else was doing the time when you dropped the title in the trash can. And he goes, I never understood it and why. He said it was the start of the revolution. You were sticking up. It was equality. And I said, absolutely. No one knows the real. I say this story and what it is, but let me tell you, the really good story is in the book. and I'm going to touch on it in the documentary in a bit, just a bit. But I mean, the true story is in there, and what it is, I mean, I'm not going to, blow it here, but the story is of what I believed and what needed to be done, because of, like you said, and you thought it was just a damn sideshow. And when I was let go, I understood it. It was business. Vince had to make a decision. What really disappointed me more than anything, and that's when I didn't understand when I heard, and he said that, he was so disappointed in me because I dropped the title in the trash. But why wasn't it a thing for me being disappointed because he just let the women go?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's what it was, more symbolic than anything.
But no,
yeah,
exactly. It was just, let's let the women go because I need to make a change. But the thing is, again, I was feeding, I was putting I was the breadwinner. I had to do, you know what I mean? Yeah. So it was like, it was no big deal back then. That's what I mean. So yeah, I lived through that crap, and it almost killed me. I didn't know what I was going to do, again. And I'm a survivor. I probably would have thought of something, whatever. But, then it was, thank God for Eric. Thank God for WCW, and that whole thing. And then, when the title in the trash happened, I didn't think anything of it. My main concern, and Eric will tell you, hey, I got to get that belt back. That's not mine. I got to give it to Vince, just so you give it back after, we do this stint.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, cool. And he did. I got it right back. And every single intention, I swear to God, in my family, was I need to get that belt back. But of course it never happened. Mm-hmm. And that's what that story. Not all of it, but yeah.
Yeah, but backing up, and I have to wonder, when you first came into this. I mean, as we mentioned, and you talk about the $5 matches when you were starting with the independent circuit.
Oh yeah, sure.
And we're talking.
Did I pay her $5?
Yeah, but we're talking. I guess early '80s, and it wasn't long before the men were making pretty damn good money, especially if you were attached to the WWF.
They were making good money back then.
Yeah,
and I was even when I was with them, yeah. I never made $100,000 working with WWF back then. But I could tell you what the guys are making. I dated one, so that's what I mean. It's like, are you kidding me? Oh, it was horrific. So, and that's why, but I'm glad now. You can't live like that in the past. And everything in history is a learning, and I just happen to be that. Mm-hmm. But the thing that separates me, and don't think for a minute that there aren't days that I sit here and go, in my own house, not on my phone, not on social media. I sit in my house and lick my own wounds, and have a pity party for myself once in a while. Yeah. It's only healthy to get it out in my own, my own square here. But I don't do that out in public. And I don't know.
Yeah. But in those early days, when you got to the AWA, and that was a big powerhouse still then. So many great names coming out of there. But
oh my God, it was something in the water.
Yeah, I mean, Minnesota, come on. And it was, but, you had to come out swinging every day if you were a woman back then. Oh. And you won Rookie of the Year for Pro Wrestling Illustrated. What did that do for your career at the time? Did you get this big payday? Were you getting more attention? I mean, what kind of an impact did that have?
Well, I think that really what persevered in everything in my whole career was my actual talent. Uh-huh. It wasn't that I was making more. And I don't know how the hell I got Rookie of the Year the first time PWI. I mean, that was the first time a woman ever did.
Right.
Let's say right then and there. I mean, that could have been the start of the revolution. You know what I mean? It actually changed, and it did get noticed, and it did knock me down a few notches with the guys, I'm sure. And, it was hard to get booked. It was hard to, blah, 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 blah. So it was great, but it was a death.
Yeah. Wow.
It didn't.
Instead of launching you, it was still so dominated.
Instead of launching me and putting me forward on it, because that wasn't the era. That's not what they did back then. We're thinking now like what they do when hey, the first WrestleMania, the first Hell in the Cell, blah, blah, blah. They escalate. They escalate that because it's the first, and they make it monumental now. Back then, oh my God, first PWI woman, whoop, let's just shut the door on that because we can't push that too much. Yeah. Because those are just the different eras. I just happened to be at that era at that time, but it was, can you think of it, if I think about it, let's just you and I reminisce here for a minute. Let's think about Madusa and take her out of that whole equation. What would have happened with women's wrestling? Any of that? Where would we still be as far as we are in women's wrestling today? We could be. But look at half of the crap that I did and changed. Not that I changed women's wrestling, for the way it is today, but I help pave the way. You know what I'm saying?
Well, no, absolutely. So, and I mentioned that, and of course there were women before you, Moolah and
absolutely.
Mae Young and these people, but it was a completely different world. They have to be given credit.
Worse than I did.
But by shaking
they had it worse than I did.
Yeah, but I'm saying shaking it up though. And you look at people like Wendi Richter and Sherri Martel, who you worked with very closely during those years, and you look like what they went through too. I mean, like I said, there's a short list. And you're definitely on that of during that period of time of breaking through that barrier, like Wendi with WrestleMania 1. And you think about,
I agree.
She was huge.
Wendi does not. Yeah, Wendi does not get the credit she does or deserves at all, and it just infuriates me. Yeah. Wendi was the start of a really She is the one that started the revolution within the WWF for all the women really today.
Well, and look at the price she paid. Right? I mean, look at the price she paid. She stood up. Well, she stood up and said, I'm just asking for fairness. And look, I mean, 5 months after WrestleMania, she's gone. It was that next November at Madison Square Garden, and that was because she dared challenge that business, that industry.
But if it wasn't for her to start that, though, and people don't know that. I mean, she just didn't want to be on Moolah's payroll anymore. She wanted to get paid directly, not through Moolah's freaking camp, And good heads after her. She was sick and tired of losing percentages or however it went. Don't, verbatim her exactly, but, I mean, that woman, and my God, she deserves so much credit. And then she actually changed the whole bridge from the old style to the new style. She broke it from, music, commercials, and cartoons, and she had gimmicks, and all of a sudden she's gone? What was that? Because she asked for more. She helped women today. And then absolutely the biggest bridge ever was way back then, the bridge all the way from her to me. Dropped my title in the trash because I didn't have enough, and I never got paid near $100,000. And I still got one of my biggest checks, or my 1040s. I kept it from my book. I still have it on what I made, and it would be like, wow, didn't even make $100,000. Yeah. So, and then from there, I loved what has happened. Of course, we went in a different direction because that was just the era. We go to Attitude Era, Divas Era, and stuff. And, we can't fault the women in that era. A lot of them worked their ass off, and they were beautiful. And that's just what was happening. It was hard, sexy, raunchy wrestling, in some aspects. But, it was entertaining. And that was just the time. And it was just the time, and it was hot, and it was smoking. It was at the pinnacle. You know how wrestling goes. It goes up and down. So, Wendi Richter era, hot, 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 and all the way down, it was dead. And then all of a sudden, hot, hot, hot Attitude Era, right?
Yeah.
Then all the way, Attitude Era, then down. I mean, we're just talking, blah, 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 blah. And all of a sudden, it's hot right now. It'll stay hot for a while, but it's going to crash again. You know what I mean?
Yeah, up and down.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it will.
But you talk about, those who paved that road. And I look
Thank
back
you,
at some of the matches.
I did.
No, but it's true. But I look back at those matches like the ones you had with Nakano, and my God, they were just certainly as on a competitive level as the men's. And that's what was so different, that you started to see the real change happening. And
yes, I will have to agree with you there.
Yeah.
And that's when I knew that when I came back to Japan in 91, because I lived in Japan for 3 years, that I knew I needed to bring the style back, because that was my whole, idea of doing that, and to be taken seriously and not just a sideshow. And when I came back, I just, put a little bit American and Japanese in there and created, Madusa. When I came back here, there was a very few women, that work that style. And I wanted believability. And, I just didn't want, it was bad enough we were a sideshow, and then to watch women wrestle in there, I just cringe sometimes, like, oh, crowd, get them out of there. Because if you can't wrestle, how can we be taken seriously? Of course we're a damn sideshow. Get moved. Let's change the whole thing, and let's do this. And so when Bull and I, oh my God, I'll tell you what, the first year in Japan, they beat the crap out of me, literally.
Yeah,
I didn't know which way I was going.
Yeah, because men, they say, how tough
they were
it is for
schooling me.
Yeah, yeah.
Was
it as tough for women? I mean, I can't even imagine what it was like. Because you hear the tales of the men saying that it was brutal. You go over there and they expect it. That's what they want.
Oh, no. They want to see you break.
Yeah.
And then most of the girls would go home. Oh, no, are you kidding that? I survived 3 years. There's not one, to this day, there's not one American woman that stayed there for 3 years.
And got a contract that early on.
Yeah.
No, that was unheard of.
There's some that stayed there for a year, maybe a year and a half. They got the hell out of town.
Yeah.
But when I set my mind to something, Sean, I go at it. Sometimes I may falter and go off path a little bit, but I get back on and look the hell out. But as far as Bull Nakano, I'd like to see her in the Hall of Fame, because she deserves it. Oh my God, she deserves it. And her matches, and I thank her all the time. Her and I would have such great matches. We wouldn't talk in the ring at all. It was just that perfect of a dance. You know what I mean? It was so methodical. Oh God, it was so amazing. And I had a lot of great matches with other Japanese girls and some Americans too. There's women that don't get recognition that did a lot of jobs for me, like Heidi Lee Morgan, and Leilani Kai and Judy Martin don't get enough credit either. I don't know. I feel that sometimes WWE forgets about anybody behind anything from the Attitude Era back. It hurts. It's disappointing. And I know they kept me active, and I'm very grateful. I really am. But there's a few that really need, to be, just in the spotlight again. We ain't not just about now. I'm not saying that, they have to be full-time or anything, but, and I know we're in the business of entertainment. People say, oh, no one wants to see old women. It's okay to have old, the old legends of men come back and roll around the ring, but, it's still, we got a lot of work to do yet, equality-wise, because it's just not there. It's not.
Well, the business has changed dramatically.
It has.
It still has a ways
for
to
the
go.
Women, absolutely.
But back then, it was a very much male-dominated world, very sexist. We could say that for sure. But there were some men in your life who you have mentioned in different interviews. Among them Heyman, and then Kurt Hennig, Greg Valentine, Rick Rude.
Yes.
Who, and I'm sure there's others, but they were there and helped you along the way. I'm sure you can elaborate on that, but there were those that had influence and helped you.
They have, and they have. Paul Heyman, absolutely. He goes on and beyond. If there's an opportunity, he'll include me. And we talk intermittently. He'll always be in my life and my heart. And Greg the Hammer Valentine, oh my God. If it wasn't for him, calling Pat Patterson say, "Hey, I've got this chick. You've got to see her. You guys got to check her out." Mm-hmm. If it wasn't that one call, Pat's like, "Okay," Yeah. And so if it wasn't for that one phone call, who knows, right? Yeah. And you don't forget about the people that have done good for you, put in a word, or I never have. Whenever I see Greg, I'm very grateful. I shake his hand and say, thank you so much. How are you doing? And Paul, we talk silly on the phone. And Rick Rude, he's no longer with us, but I pushed him in my speech, on the Hall of Fame speech, and sure enough, he was a Hall of Famer the next year or so. And yeah, I'm very, very grateful for everyone that's touched my life. And Kurt to put up with me as his manager, as he did in AWA. I was so green. Mm-hmm. And oh God. Yeah, and Randy Macho, man, oh my God, he was amazing. He was very worried at one of my matches in Japan when I gigged and I was bleeding all over the place. He was freaking the frick out, in his voice. Yeah. Oh my God, why'd you cut so deep? And and I'm like, it's good. I'll never forget that. And who else was really nice too? Mick Foley's always been good, Mm-hmm. Bam Bam Bigelow was really nice. I can go on with a few. But, there's Scott Hall, Razor Ramon, said something to me too when I was inducted. Another guy that had a nice pair of kahunas. He just said, I never got to say this, Deuce, but a lot of us guys, we just never want to follow your match, man. No one wanted to go after you and Bull Nakano.
Wow, what a compliment! That is, that's really something. Yeah,
it was. Yeah, and I was like, I can't believe this. First Mick Foley, now you after 25 years. I think that's amazing. It just takes 25 years, and here all these years, I thought no one just, I thought it was just a piece of crap. Really, that's how I felt.
Yeah, well, I mean, understanding where you came from, that probably was with you. That insecurity. You never lose it. It's always within you. You just become pretty good at covering it up.
Well, I'm very strong on the outside because of my survival mechanism, and I'm very strong. And I have this knack of nurturing and teaching and educating people about with motivation and surviving. And you wouldn't believe so many people reaching out in questions and. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just the aura. Maybe they feel comfortable, confident, and but I think it's just what you said. I hide it well, and I've gone through a lot of stuff, and I'm everyone's. I will tell you, just like this is not a victim story. It's not a victim book. It's not even that. No one's going to get that feeling, but it's so many things that I've experienced and done that it's like there's going to be at least one story that someone's going to resonate with. It's not just reading the book also a book or a story. It's going to be able to where people don't have to be, you're not going to know. Well, how am I going to say this? Pick up a book. Picking up this book is you don't know that it's just a wrestler, but it's more than that. It's more of a story. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's that kind of feel. Well, so you just don't have to enjoy wrestling to read this book because it's going to take you beyond that. Yeah.
Well, I tell you, that's what this podcast has evolved for me. At the beginning, it to me was just getting, but no, I'm saying it, to get people on and to talk about their careers. That was kind of the original idea, and what it's become though, and I noticed episode after episode after episode, that is, wrestling is what was their chosen path. But if you listen to the stories of these people, to pretty much every single one of them, they came from a place where they struggled. They had people telling them, you can't do this, and they just never quit, and they succeeded. And to me, they're inspirational stories. So even if you just listen to these stories about these people, I don't know how it cannot inspire you to try and achieve anyway, or go after what you want. And it doesn't have to be wrestling. And that's, that, like you're saying, that's your story. I mean, it is of never quitting, of always challenging yourself. And, that was true, like when you went to WCW. I mean, that was like a major accomplishment. Then you go to the WWF with the idea that they want you to revive the women's division. I don't know if you grasped it at the time. I mean, it was a job and you were going to get paid, but was that kind of an enormous burden to take on initially, thinking that they're expecting me to make this happen?
Well, I didn't look at it as a burden at all. I looked at it, I remember this clear, like it was a challenge. And I was like, whoa, we're starting the women's division again. It's been stifled or whatever. And oh my gosh, they picked me to do it. Holy shit, yes. And then it was like, there was hardly anyone to wrestle. Yeah. So it just became stagnant. It was like lost. And I was struggling. And I was trying to grasp, and then we started getting, the Japanese over, and then we were doing little intimate things here and there, and then we had a great little thing with Bertha Faye, and, hey, we did the best we could with what we had. I don't mean as far as other talent, just the scarcity of it.
Wasn't there,
yeah, the level, and absolutely. I love, when I look back and I look at some of the stuff with Bertha Faye, that was so funny. It was cute. Her and Harvey Wippleman. Yeah. We don't have any characters like that. There's no manager like that. It's just, I don't know.
Yeah. But what was it like, though? I mean, was the peak WrestleMania 10 for you with the WWF at that time? Because that was incredible to be on the stage there at WrestleMania 10. Must have been. I don't know if you took a chance to look around and say, "Man, I'm here. I did it."
Okay, so yeah, it's Madison Square Garden, by the way.
Yeah.
The old, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll never forget it. I was wrestling Bull Nakano, Madison Square Garden. We were in that it was like the hallway. Everyone was, all the fans would walk, and it was like our door was right there by the fans, and then right across you could see kind of the inside Madison Square Garden. And it was Bull Nakano and I and Luna Vachon. And I think it was there. I'm pretty sure it was there. I think it was after the match. And Luna, bless her heart, you just never knew what mood she was in and when she was going to come around. And I took care of her a lot on the road, but she lost it that night, and she just went, oh my God, she went off and just started swinging and trying to beat the crap out of me. And it was something that happened, and, we just still don't know to this day, but it was just Luna and her personalities. Yeah. And we had to deal with that all the time. It was so unpredictable. And of course, my big heart, I had to carry her through, a lot of international flights and a lot of, travel. And I remember there was a time I felt so bad, at this time when we, were bringing back women's wrestling. And after we got we were starting the tournament, and I was wrestling Hadley Morgan. My God, thank God for her. And then I had a cycle with Luna, and we were getting ready. We were in Canada, and I wanted to drop the belt to her so bad, and WWF wouldn't let me. And I'm like, come on, it's just her hometown or something in Canada. Just one time, the kid never had the fucking belt. They're like, no. And I'm like, I'm okay, fine. And so I told Luna, I said, I'm dropping the belt to you tonight. I'm wrestling you. She goes, oh, no, don't. No, dude. She still called me Madusa, even though when I was Blayze. No, Madusa. I said, yeah, I'm going to do it. And what are they going to do? Fire me? Let them fire me. If there's anything I want to remember is you winning the title one time. And yeah. And she refused. Yeah, and so I was laying there, and I remember it was a house show too, and I was just laying there, and I wouldn't even kick out. She pulled my head up by my hair to pick me up, so I wouldn't be counted out, and she'd go, fuck you, I'm gonna get fired if you don't fucking And I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm laying here for so, we're going back and forth and laughing. And excuse the language, but that's truly what happened. And it was just, and there's so much more.
You're like, we're changing the world here, Luna. Come on, come with me.
Yeah. Oh, and then she started beating she didn't beat my ass. But, oh, yeah, it was some great times there through that whole tournament and, small run that I had. But I don't know. It was a big change, that's for sure. After all these years, when I was inducted into the Hall of Fame, and when I was at the stage practicing before, that night, that morning I had my hair in rollers and I'm standing there at the podium and we're trying to do, the timing and stuff. And I'm just standing there. My husband's, out in the front with other people just waiting. And my back was turned, and all of a sudden I hear this, Alundra. I went, oh, shit, it is Vince. I haven't seen Vince since 1995, or no, 1996,
Wow,
and I'm
really?
like, oh my God. Yeah.
Jeez.
I haven't seen Vince since 1996. And so in 2015, I went, oh my God, that's Vince McMahon. And I just went, oh, I turned around and I'm like, hey, I said, oh my God, you look amazing. Yeah. I'm like, oh my God, you look amazing. You look amazing. He goes, well, thank you. And I go, really? Oh my God. And a big hug. And then the first thing that came out of my mouth is just like, I am so sorry. And he's just like, hey, it's all right. And then we were talking and he said, and see, I knew this was going to happen where the women are today by our small conversation. He said something like, you are exactly what we want. You are the type of woman, the style, and where we're going to go. You are he didn't say like role model. He said something like you are the mold or something of where we're going. And I was like, what? He just kind of looked at me and I just kind of knew what he meant. I'm like, he's going to go for real women's wrestling, like strong style or something. And look where we're at today. So those few words, it's like in 2015, the light when I knew exactly where we were going.
Yeah,
and I was like,
years. It only took 20 years for that.
20 years, yeah. But he believed in me when he hired me then, and he really wanted women's wrestling, but it just wasn't going the way he wanted to, I guess. And I worked my ass off. I did my best. But I live vicariously now through the women of today because this is me. This is me living vicariously through them because this is my style. Yeah.
But back then, and you've talked about it several times of that conversation with J.J. Dillon when they let you go, and
yes,
there's just so much to that, as we mentioned, kind of that's it was symbolic. The belt in the trash can. It wasn't just you saying "F you guys" for doing that to me. It was like, this is what you think of women's wrestling. And at that point, did you feel like, God, now how much does this set us back? Were you thinking that then when you left the WWF?
You mean when I dropped the title in the trash?
Yeah, but when they let you go, were you feeling like, God, all this work, and then that's how much they value it?
Oh, you kidding me? Yeah. I was disappointed. I told you. I was more disappointed. Listen to this. I was more disappointed that they were letting me go, but what the frick have I been doing? I'm trying to build something here. Yeah. I mean, my emotions. I mean, I was thinking work, business. And I needed to feed people or whatever, and I was thinking, what the hell am I going to do? But me as a motivating trying to, I was lost. I was baffled. And then, of course, the stint and, blah, blah, blah. And then that totally took a whole frickin' turn. And then women's wrestling started to turn, and I'm like, I am not doing this. I am not about frickin' barbecue frickin' matches and, evening gowns. And I'm not this. I'm changed. It's changing, and it's time for me to retire. I'm done. This ain't it.
But what about when you went to WCW?
I respect myself. I respect myself for walking away from a freaking paycheck because that work got just too hard.
Yeah. But when you went to WCW,
Whatever.
was that better though? I mean, did Eric, who brought you in, and those were the like you said, that was the start. A big
We
part
tried.
of that.
I believe that we tried. We had an idea to have women's wrestling, but again, there wasn't much.
Yeah.
We just there wasn't. There just still wasn't. We're talking 1992, right?
Yeah. Well,
there wasn't that much.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, there's still what? We had to get the Japanese over there.
Yeah.
Think about it. I mean, we had Akira Hokuto, Goro Nakano, and then, of course, some of the American talent, which, thank God, a little bit of Sherri and I, oh, my God. Thinking of Sherri. You'd never believe who I saw for the first time since 1992. Colonel Parker.
Really?
Remember Colonel Parker and Sherri and I did that whole stint about the wedding and her and I fought. That was good crap, man. That was good stuff. I'm not kidding. I had bruises and welts, and her and I were laughing
Sherri,
afterwards. We're like, did you get cake up your nose? I hope so, you bitch. And we started laughing. And I'm like, ah. Oh, it was so good. So good. But oh my God. But that was fun, and it was time for me to leave. And so in 1999 I got a really great call from Mike Weber, and he said, Deuce, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm getting ready to retire. And I go, why? What's up? He goes, well, I used to work for WCW. I'm like, yeah, man, what the hell? What are you doing? He goes, I'm working for Monster Truck. I'm like, Monster Truck? He goes, yeah. He goes, we need a woman to, bust the doors and break glass ceilings. And I'm like, what?
That's me.
He goes, yeah, we don't have any. We need somebody to, he didn't say pave the way at the time, but we need somebody we need a face and a name, and we need little girls in the crowd, and we need a woman driver, and there's never been. And I'm like, okay, well, what do you got? A monster truck? What do you mean? He goes, how about if I fly you out and you test drive one? And I'm like, what?
You'd never driven one before that?
No. Are you freaking kidding me? No, dude. So I'm just a Harley driving, dirt bike, 4-wheel driving girl, right?
So you were a natural doing these things then, huh? I mean, you got behind the wheel
I'm going to have to tell you, yes, I was. I was a natural throttle rhythm girl. Oh, yeah. Yep. And so they flew me out, and I test drove with Dennis Anderson, the great, legendary gravedigger founder, Dennis Anderson. And him and I were just like, we hit it off like brother and sister, man. It was like, he didn't have to say much. I watched his eyes. I watched his hand signals. It's like, wah, wah, wah. And it's like I kind of burped over a few cars, wah, 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 coming around this little field, wah, kind of like, wah, like almost upside down on this pond. Wah, and it came out. I'm like, I'm freaking fired before I'm hired. And so I get out and they're talking. They're like, have you ever drove? And I'm like, no, sir. And they go, so, have you ever exercised any of this? I'm like, no. And they go, you're hired. I said, what? And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? So he's like, and I'm like, what? And I'm not kidding, Sean. 2 weeks later, I was in a damn monster truck in front of 62,000 people.
Jeez.
Yeah, and then I never practiced in one for almost, I'm going to say, 15 years. Jeez. My practice in driving was on the weekends while I raced and did freestyle. We did not have a school. We did not have a practice place. We didn't have jack. I just got in behind a truck that was 10,000 pounds, 1,500 horsepower, and hung the hell on.
Jesus. And you were a 2-time champion.
Oh, yeah, let me tell you. I busted ass. I freaking changed the whole trajectory of monster trucks. Look the hell out. So they didn't realize what the hell they were doing. So it was like a freaking nightmare, dude. So when they hired me, and I went in there and I started, I said, I'm getting ready I'm negotiating my contracts. I've got this experience from, 18 years of wrestling. I'm like, I got this. And I'm like, I don't want anything different. And everybody, now we're talking really nice family, Southern boys racing, we're talking chew spitting, great guys. And here comes this chick that they're looking up going, oh my God, who's this? This freaking ride and profile, the whole thing. Yeah. And they're like, oh, she's going to get all this, she's going to get that, she's going to get hundreds of thousands of this. Well, I said, look, I know this business. I know what I'm walking into because it's all men. I know what I need to do to gain their respect because I already did this. So I don't want to be treated different. I want to be decent. I want to be paid fairly. And I want to get in there and get dirty and work just like the guys. Well, be careful what you ask for, Sean, because for the first couple years, I made zero money almost. I'm telling you, I nearly made crap. Oh, no. We're talking, I made, I'm going to say, probably I'm going to say maybe $30,000.
Oh my God!
Driving a monster truck and killing myself.
Yeah.
Maybe I didn't even make that.
Jeez.
I'm telling you, I got it all.
Oh.
It's all.
I was going to say I was at least hoping you made hundreds of thousands of dollars from this, but no. No. So, and then I went on the road. I rode in the semi. I broke it down. I put up the monster truck. I worked on the monster truck with my crew chief. I was up late at night till 4 a.m, putting the bitch together. Jeez. And then I was there at driving meetings, and then I'd go out there and race and do freestyle. Oh, yeah, be careful what you ask for. But you know what? The moment I won World Finals is when I gained the guys' respect. Wow.
They did not take me seriously. They would always hinder my machine, not where I'd hurt or kill myself, but they would, they'd flatten my tires right before a race. They would do something to the motor or, or whatever to slow shit down. Huh. They would put powder in my seat so I'd quick run up there and sit down, poof, I couldn't see, I would choke to death. I couldn't take off at the green light. It was just hilarious. It was great. They're called ribs, and they didn't realize what they were doing, but trust me, Madusa, she was putting it all in, and she was waiting. She was waiting, but she got back. Every single one of them got ripped back, and they didn't know what the hell to do.
They messed with the wrong woman.
It was so much fun, though. It was just good. And that was a good life. I really, my body took a lot of shots, in both, careers, occupations, but I wouldn't have changed a thing. It's been amazing. And now, as I go through this, almost 40 years of entertainment, everything has changed, and then with change is instant. And then there's the transition with change. And transition is it's a journey, and it's how you decide what you're going to do with it and the steps that you need to take. And it's your journey. And so every part in every change, there's a great transition. And that's the beauty for me. I love change, but it's the transition is what makes me. Yeah. And it's the decision of what I do with it and how I do it gracefully. So now, during this big transition in my life, just to circle all around in your interview here, is that so now I'm trying to put everything together that I've always wanted as far as all those little trinkets. And at an age that is beautiful and acceptable and going through all the funny things as a woman does. And I never thought of when I was 20 and 30 in the business. And of course, they kind of roll around in your head, and you hear from your friends or your peers or whatever. Hey, look out for this. This is going to happen. Things going to start changing. Yeah. Well, I'm here, and I'm here to talk about that. And it's a great time because that's what we do now. We don't close our mouths about certain things. We are open, and we do share things. So that's why I started that podcast, for that reason, because I've been pretty settled in my personal life my whole life. I've been pretty quiet. I do interviews, I do talk about things, but I don't give away a lot of the good stuff. You know what I mean? Enough for them to know what's happened and give them a little nugget here and there. but the good stuff is coming. And so now I'm just in that transition, and it's a powerful transition because I'm finding myself again. You know, I love life. I always have loved life. I love people. I love learning knowledge, whatever. And now I don't have to prove so much, you know, and that's so beautiful. And I'm trust me, I've got lots of things going on, but I'm learning how to prioritize, put deadlines, and to fulfill my dreams that I've always wanted back then that can come true. And seeing that it can happen with all of these beautiful pieces of talent, the young women and men that at such a young age they're able to do what I've always wanted to do. I can sit there and look at that and go, oh, poor me, oh, I could have done that. Well, I still can. Period. It doesn't matter what age you are. And also, one of the great things that I talk about in the seminar, I think I told you, is that it's about the health, you know, and how we take care of ourselves. I thought I was just invincible, you know, at that age. And I know they all think that too. And they know they have to take care of their body. They eat right. They do this. They do that. Well, I see no difference from me thinking that way and them thinking that way. But I think that we're at a really good time at this right now that it needs to be addressed. It needs to be educated, that they need to take a really hard freaking look at my generation, because my generation is falling apart. It has been falling apart. It's deteriorating by our choice of what we wanted to do for our life. And our bodies are going to change drastically. And that's what I'm trying to voice more than anything in a lot of these seminars. Yeah. You made a choice to wrestle. You think you're taking care of your body, and you are. You're working out. You got a big body. You're hard. You're big muscles. You're this. So was I. And I was probably one of the cleanest ones ever, because I didn't do drugs. I had wine or a drink once in a while. I just, you know, I wasn't there. I was like where it's at. A lot of them don't do a lot of that. So I think that that having them take a good look at my and a little bit before, like the guys that are 10 years old that are, you know, that have the hip replacements, the knee replacements, all the back surgeries, all of the neck surgeries that can't. I go to these Comic Cons and these guys can't walk. And and I just wish these federations would educate our talent, not so much that, hey, yeah, you can come here and learn and get a paycheck while you do, and hey, this is how you cut a promo, but hey, what about your life? Yeah. You know, medically, your body, and where's that cushion in that egg to do that and take care of them afterwards?
Yeah, and it's incredible what they're doing to these, you know, everything's the high spots now. Oh my God, I'm so frightened.
Yes. Oh my God, Sean. And so the most beautiful thing, and as I told you, and we can wrap this up, is that and I've been in situations and places because that's where I needed to be. And that old saying or cliche, things happen for a reason, right? Yeah. Well, I was just at a sign in some Comic Con, and they had all the legends in one room, and it was so well done. It was so cool. There was Sergeant Slaughter, Danny Davis, myself. There was Paul Orndorff from the Killer Bees. And I really got an opportunity, and I cultivated, and it was like Brian Blair and I just started talking. And I've seen him before, and we just never, but we spoke, and we talked, and it was like so cool and amazing. And he showed me his back and the surgery and everybody else that couldn't walk around, and poor Paul Orndorff, and just, oh my God, and watching these guys just change, it broke my heart. I almost started crying. I'm like, look at us. We need to educate our kids. Look at us. Yeah. This is going to happen to your body. You may not feel it now in your 30s, 40s, but I'm going to tell you, every bump you take, you're shaking your organs. You're shaking your vertebrae. Yeah. You can't ever get that back. It's a car wreck every night. Yeah, it is. And it, oh my God. And so what happens is everything deteriorates, and everything's going to we don't even have to get into that right now. But so here's the thing. So I was talking to Brian Blair, and I got talking to him about the CAC, the Cauliflower Alley. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
Oh,
but,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he's a big part
oh, my
of that.
God, Sean. It is the most amazing .org ever. And I remember for years and years and decades, I've always heard about it. I always kind of looked at it. I'm like, God, I want to be a part of that. But then I got caught up in my life. Mm-hmm. And then I'd go back and I'd listen. I'm like, oh, but I got caught up in my life. And damn it, finally, I said, for not anymore. I was gravitated towards Barn for some reason. And we just talked. And then all of a sudden we sat there at the Delta Sky Club room while we were flying out, and we had 2 hours to kill, and we talked again. Mm-hmm. And then I said, Brian, this is amazing what the CAC does. And I finally realized the CAC actually gives back to our talent, not just wrestling, but I'm talking about entertainment people. If it's from, if it's actors and wrestlers and MMA, and then I included, I said, why not circus performers or race car drivers if they don't have their own? And he's like, yeah. And then he told me the CAC actually gives back. So, like, every time someone joins the CAC, like I said, Brian, I'm going to become a full member. After everything you finally told me, and I understand what CAC is about, I'm not putting aside anymore. So the first thing I did is became a lifetime member, and half of it went to the .org. And what the .org does, and I mean, I'm going to be the huge advocate for this. I mean, it just, my heart just swells, is that it goes back for any wrestler or any entertainer in need, like Kamala and his legs, right?
Yeah,
and other people, oh my gosh. So we don't have that nest egg called the Social Security within our entertainment industry like the NFL. And God forbid somebody say, hey, we need a union. Oh my God, it's you're blackballed, you're getting out of here, you don't have a we were all scared we'd lose a contract, we'd never work again. And still, are you kidding me? Yeah. So who is going to be the first organization to team up with CAC and be that prominent figure and say, hey, okay, why can't we team together? So we'll encourage our talent to become members, but yet, and then they match it. How great is that? Yeah. And then they become a member, and then you pay your dues, and that way we're all putting money into it, and it's going to become huge and bigger, and it's going to take care of their own. Right. Now, what organization is going to find it? That way they don't have to be, the organization don't have to have that umbrella and, take that extra step like the NFL does and takes care of their own. I don't know what they're so scared about. Yeah. They have great drug rehab programs, you know what I mean? And it's unbelievable. It's amazing. Yeah. Someone stepped up to me and said, Deuce. Yeah, someone stepped up to me and said, Deuce, what do I got to do? Become a drug addict? Then I get free rehab. But then, do I need to slip and fall, and that way my body will be taken care of? Yeah. And I'm like, that's crazy. That's stupid. No, don't think that way. I said, blah, 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 blah. Get with the CAC because it's going to be the greatest thing ever because I am going to push it and help other people educate them on what it's about because I truly believe CAC is going to be the future for us wrestlers. It's going to be our Social Security for us.
Yeah, needs to get bigger.
I just believe it.
Yeah, I've kept you for a while, but I have some questions because when people heard I was having you on, I got some in here. So can I throw a few quick ones at you before we sign off here?
Absolutely. All
right. Michael Gonzalez says, "What is your opinion on the women's division of AEW?" I don't know if you've been following that new organization out there, but I think it's kind of a general question of seeing what these new organizations are doing for women.
So I love that there's another organization because I feel that we all need competition, and it's about time. You know what I mean? And you look how much WWE stepped up, right? Mm-hmm. They're doing fantastic and some great things that they've changed. I love it. I
but it's always been business to Vince. So unless it was good business, he wouldn't be doing it. So it is really just great to see.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah. And as far as the women's division in AEW, I think it's great that they have one. I like the way they're going and they're treating the women. They're putting them in the forefront just like anybody else.
Equal pay, apparently. So
equal pay. Get a load of that. Yeah.
So
I love Brandy. Are you kidding me? I knew she was going to be a force for that before. Once that started, I basically, just said that woman's going to make sure that stuff is done right.
Yeah.
Equality and financially. And so, as far as the division, God, I mean, God, who wouldn't like to help over there?
Yeah. All right, we'll move along here. Aiden Yastro, what did you think about managing pre-nails Kevin Kelly in the AWA? Is he as high-strung as most people think he is?
Oh, my God, what a great question, because you never get asked about Kevin Kelly.
Oh, God, I'd love to interview
Kevin
him.
Kelly, oh, my God. Kevin Kelly, nails, right?
Yeah.
And, so quiet. And he was intense. He reminded me of Jesse the Ventura back in the day and how he rocked and he shook his leg.
Oh,
Jesse.
really?
And,
like Jesse, huh?
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Jesse would rock, yeah.
Yeah, he would rock and his leg would go 100 miles an hour and he'd be like, it just reminded me, and then Nails was like that. He was like so quiet and intense. And I remember how he walked. His bleached thin hair would just wiggle through the air because he didn't have much. He would be so intense when he worked out. And then, of course, I knew him and worked for him. And he would giggle a little bit. And it'd be really great to see when he did crack a smile. But he was quiet more than anything. He was intense, I guess, to people because of his look, but he wasn't charming at all. He was very good to work with. Very good to me.
Yeah, until he strangled Vince, and then it was over.
Well, right? I mean, I wasn't there, didn't see it. I don't know what happened, but I don't know. Maybe something pissed him off. Who knows?
Oh, God, I would love to get him on the podcast.
A lot
Ethan
of
Fisher,
people want to talk to you.
Ethan Fisher says, I remember vividly, and we touched on this as a young fan, you having a hell of a match with Colonel Robert Parker from 1995 WCW. Any recollections of that night?
Absolutely. Think about it, guys. I know that there's been intergender wrestling even prior that I did it, but I don't know what it was, or who did it. But think about it. I think Colonel and I been the first intergender wrestling since back in Moolah days, right?
Yeah.
And it really wasn't seen. And I will tell you, Colonel Parker was so easy to work with, and he gave me his body. Now, I remember body slamming him, and he was so heavy, and I was like, hey, help me pick up your big ass body. Yeah. Come on. And he was I think because he was laughing so hard he couldn't help, get himself up. But otherwise, he was so good. And by the way, when I first saw him for the first time in 92, he was just a while ago. He doesn't look any different. He looks good.
Yeah, he still wears the whole shtick. He's
got
that gimmick going.
He still looks like Colonel Sanders. Yeah. He still looks like Colonel Sanders, the chicken dude.
Yeah, they should have him do that commercial. And then he goes on to say there was some hilarious play-by-play from Dusty Rhodes. And with that in mind, any good Dusty stories that you have?
I have amazing Dusty stories. He loved me, and he's the one that really believed in me and started doing something with me at WCW. Mm-hmm. And I remember it was him and I and Barry Windham and stuff. All of us three would always get together at the end of the night, and we would drink in the room, and we have some great stories. Yeah. It was so good. Yep.
Yeah. He helped a lot of people along the way.
He sure did. He was just a master.
And you mentioned the intergender matches. I wanted to bring that up before. It's amazing though that you brought a legitimacy to that, and people like China were able to do that. And even Sherri, and at a time when it was not, people were like, what is going on here? Yeah, it wasn't acceptable. So when you prepared for those matches, did you get a lot of resistance from some of the guys that you wrestled with, or were they always really, into doing it? I don't know. I imagine it was both ways.
My God. There's not one guy that resisted.
Really?
Not one guy. They were so, and I will tell you, the one that everyone freaks out about was when I wrestled Ming.
Wow.
And he shook me like a rag doll. And people are like, he absolutely killed her. And it was the softest ever. And he took care of me. Ming was amazing. And, you know, working with Evan Courageous, he was all for it. It was so good. Paul Heyman, of course. Are you kidding me? That was the best. And I had Ming. I had Paul Heyman. I had Evan Courageous. I had Colonel Parker, La Parca. Good Lord. Who is it? There was Nash. There was, well, actually, I don't know if I wrestled Nash, but there was a few things, body slams and stuff. And then there was, I don't know. But yeah, think about it. When we were talking about WCW,
it's amazing, especially then.
Yeah, when we were talking about WCW and what they were doing with me, it's just they didn't have anything else to do. So, hey, let's just have a WrestleMania and win the men's universe, like whatever title. And I'm like, okay, whatever.
So I want to make sure I mention these aren't questions, but I want you to know that you know how much people thought of you or when you were in the ring, and it's just like Ethan says, thank you for being a trailblazer. But he says, thank you for being a trailblazer. Much love and respect from Texas. Matt Miller says, if you could wrestle one current woman in the business, who would it be? I imagine you've been asked that before, but is there somebody that stands out that you see today working?
I guess who I would really work well with. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm sure I would work well with a lot of them.
Yeah.
But again, I would love to, you know, Shayna Baszler, Asuka, of course. There's a couple other. I could see, you know, who's kind of my style is Lacey Evans. I think. I guess I see me and her. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And another one is the one coming up is Ripley. I see some of me and her. And, of course, there's my hand-picked favorites when there's a Natty. And there's, you know,
right.
There's just
goes
all
on.
of them.
Yeah, there's a list. Matt goes on to say,
it'd be great.
Matt also goes to say, I just wanted to say I appreciate your sense of humor regarding Tony Schiavone and his obsession with you. It's great stuff.
I don't know how that happened, but I guess one day, you know, I kept getting all these texts, and I'm like, what the hell's going on? And I kept seeing, well, how Schiavone's back.
Schiavone's back.
Schiavone just said something, this and that. And I'm like, what the hell? And then I finally got into it. What the hell's going on, Tony? He goes, I have this huge crush on you. I'm like, oh, and then we start laughing because I talk about you all the time on my podcast. And it's just and he just, he's so nice to me every time I see him. And I know, you know, it's fun, it's games, it's the work. I get it. But, so I egg him on all the time. So every time there's a StarCast, oh, my God, people roar. They're like, have her on.
It's awesome. All right, Sean Daniels says, I was interested about the belt. We talked about this being thrown in the garbage on Nitro. Did the WWE, though, actually let you keep the belt? And was that the actual WWE title? Okay,
so all of these years when I said I had to give the belt back, I absolutely had every intention, and even called up there one time and was basically told, you know, that he's very angry at you and he never wants, you know, she didn't say, the secretary at the time said, he just doesn't want to talk to you. You have nothing to do. There's nothing. And I'm like, okay. Then I just hung on to the belt. So yes, it's the original belt.
Uh-huh.
When Carano called me and asked me, you know, if I, you know, was interested in being inducted in the Hall of Fame, I told him my idea. I said, can I bring the belt? And I need to tell the story because it's like the elephant in the room. And I need to tell the story, and I need to bring the belt back. He goes, yeah, what do you got? And I wrote out my speech. I wrote out my whole speech and gave it to the writer. They did not change one thing, nor did they say shorten it. They said, absolutely. So they let me have the trash can, and I pulled out all the crap, like that barbecue stuff I hate, you know, just boo, 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 boo. Nothing against the individual writer who came up with it or whatever. I tease about that. But I just didn't want to, I didn't like being in damn freaking wrestling and barbecue's house. But that is the original belt. And at that time, I given the belt back. I walked up and I said, "Here's the belt." And he said, "Keep it." I said, "What?"
Full closure there. All right, David Lackey Sr. said,
"Go ahead."
Circle. Yeah, full circle. David Lackey Sr. says, and I hate these questions, but there usually are some really good responses. But out of your whole career, what is the decision you regret the most? This is from David Lackey Sr.
Out of my whole career, what decision
do you regret the most?
That's kind of funny because in my decades of career, it almost wasn't my decision. Think about it.
Right, you didn't have that choice. Yeah. Well, I mean, but don't you feel that way about everything in a sense? Because I think back of things. If I just would have take that turn, or if I would have not been, stood up and mouthed off and got myself, but then you're not where you are, and you don't have those people in your life that, so many different things could have happened. Yeah. Yeah.
That's the problem. I did speak up. I did do this. I did do that. But there's nothing that, as far as his question, that I regret. I don't regret the title of this race. I don't regret, I just, I wish that I wasn't so ahead of my time. I wish I was now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all. There's no regrets, man. It is what it is.
Yeah.
So I'm going to utilize everything that I've learned and done and become and use it to good source and, move it forward, and just want to be a good piece of human that, people can look at and say, damn, if she can do it, I can do it.
Yeah. Hell of a ride. David, and we're not saying, I didn't say I hate the question. It's a tough question, but a good one.
No.
Thank you. All right. And the last one, Mario Ballantyne says, what was your favorite moment when you were a part of the Dangerous Alliance? Hall of Fame worthy faction in my books.
Oh, yeah, me too. I think the DA should be in the Hall of Fame. Now, think about it. This is another thing. That's a great question, because I'm going to go off on a little thing here that, we have men that's been in the Hall of Fame twice. Why isn't Madusa there? I mean, that's two great, huge names. And how many stables have I been with? I mean, Macho Madness, the DA.
Diamond Exchange.
Come on.
Yeah.
And
good stuff.
So I'm waiting for a woman to be inducted twice. I'm sure they won't choose me. They're going to choose probably the newer breed to get it done so they can say it was part of the evolution. Okay, watch. That'll probably happen. But, yeah. And then as far as the DA, it was so great because we had Paul Heyman. He was the mouth for basically all of us. And I loved cutting the promos because I couldn't cut one back then. I was still learning. And I remember I kept trying to cut a promo. It must have been 10, 20 times. And Arn Anderson needed to leave. And he was frustrated with me. And he just would he would piss me off. Come on, fucking go. Right? And I'm like, just stop it. I can't do it if you just pounding me. Shut up. And so, of course, they would always, put the pressure on. And so finally, I just cut the promo, and I got so mad. I took off my shoes and I whipped it. I started whipping them with my high heels. I'll never forget that. Oh my God! And then as far as oh God, they were so fun to travel with in Buffalo. I have these pictures. It was Steve Austin, myself, I think Taker. I don't know, but we're all up there. And the thing is that Vince would always fly us business class, international. It was so great.
Yeah.
And I have this greatest picture with Austin back in the day when he trademarked it. He came right up through the curtains or whatever, and he looked at me and he flipped me off. Steve Austin style. Yeah. And Rick Rude was amazing. It was always Paul Heyman, myself, and Rick Rude traveling together. Yeah. And Rick always had to travel in the back seat. They'd roll up the windows tight and they'd smoke their joint. And of course, I was the biggest jock, and I was like gagging. I'd get like residual high, and I was so pissed off. But I had a ride with them, and I'll never forget. Like, I had my feet up on the dash, and I always kick back, and I'll always remember this. And out of the blue, they were getting high, and it's like, Rude would always say, "Damn, Deuce, you got the longest toes, man." I was like, ah.
Oh, man.
Oh, he goes, "Deuce, you can play some piano with that shit."
Yeah,
I'm like, okay.
Funny. That's funny.
It's funny stuff.
Yeah, as we wrap up here, though, you went on to do other things like with the monster trucks, and you left wrestling for all that time. But did it, and we talk about full circle, though, being inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, what did that mean in the end there, as far as to stand up on that stage and just, settle it with Vince, and now you're still, you're part of that family again.
And it's such the greatest feeling. I will say this over and over. It's so good to be back. It's such an honor. It's great to mend fences, and to have, WWE to have that, how do you say? Just that acceptance back is so amazing. I was scared, and I told you that earlier about that whole thing about people welcoming back. But every single girl, every young girl, every person there, it was totally opposite. They opened arms. They were hugging me, and I was like, wow, these girls are amazing. They're so nice and so good. It's totally different. Oh, my God, totally different. I mean, they're so respectful. They're so nice. It was so nice. I mean, I never felt so comfortable in my life. And and if it wasn't for Natty, with her introduction speech, and building that platform, she built that for me to be able to produce my speech, and I couldn't have done it without her. And to the truth, and to be back was really good because it has opened up opportunities, and it was a big change. So I've been on this transition for 5 years, which is, the Legends contract is coming up, and I don't know if they're going to ask me to sign again or be aboard. It'd be great if they did. I mean, because I really want to be a part, be active, because I want to be that older woman that is, hip and cool, that still is able to get around, that can speak well, that can speak about the diversity and the change and where we came from and how it used to be, to, hey, look, we're still active. We still can do things with the older talent and be proud of it, and help them. Because if we don't stay active with some of the older talent, it makes us look shallow. I think that we're only conducting from this to this, and we're not about that global environment, that whole global company. You know what I mean? Like, they want to be, there's so much, the demographic is now growing across the board, like the monster trucks used to be from 3 to 99, and that's what it's becoming. And I think that if they facilitate in a way that, and keep some of us active, it'll be good for them, and it's good for us. We both have a win-win situation. And being up on that stage, when I walked through and I was standing there at Gorilla, here's the cutest thing ever. We can close this, is that when Natty was doing the speech and she said, the only woman to ever trash the title, the belt or the title in the trash can, the whole crowd went, and I'm just standing there looking at the velvet curtain with the tape there in Gorilla, crapping myself, going, how in the hell am I going to take this crowd now? And the only thing I heard behind me was Vince going, good luck, Alundra. And I'm like, oh my God. And I kind of looked out of my corner of my eye, and he was smiling. And that was it. And then I watched him go velvet, and it was like, it's like, oh my God, I got this. And there it was, and delivered.
Oh, well, it has really been an honor to talk with you, Brenda, and you're still evolving.
It's been a minute. It's been an hour, 38 minutes.
I know, and you're still giving back. And I'll tell you, when people ask me, hey, what episode should I listen to where it's going to really inspire me, I'm going to say you got to listen to Madusa's episode. So really, and what is the best way? Because a lot of people are going to want to follow up on this. You got a lot going on. What is the best way for them to find out what you're up to?
Well, they can go to my website. That is the best way. It's madusa.com, and there's sections on there where you can, type in and ask and comment, and it goes to an email and it filters through, and I answer them. And then they can catch me on my Instagram and Twitter, which is Madusa, MADUSA_rocks, and then just Madusa, MADUSA on Facebook. And of course, it's Madusa /Alundra Blayze on Twitter. But at the end of the day, the project on Indiegogo, My Personal Revolution, is the docu-series, web series that we're doing. We put together the trailer, which I totally funded with my team, and I wouldn't have been able to do it without my team and the long, hard hours of pro bono work. Yeah. And to finish this story, the Indiegogo fundraiser is available on my website, as well as going straight to Indiegogo, My Personal Revolution, Madusa. You can watch the trailer. There's a little message on there, a video of me talking to you, and really get a feel of kind of just the taste of it. If you can't donate, that's cool. Spread the love on social media, and that will go a long way as well. Yeah. And I just want to say thanks to everybody that's ever watched me or listened to me. Loyal fans. There's so many out there. God, I can't believe it. Even following me, and I'm as good as they are. You know what I mean? They help me elevate. They help me become who I am. Absolutely, we're all a team together.
Yeah, fantastic.
Excuse me.
Well,
yes,
this has been a blast, and I want you back on right before that premieres. Okay. Well.
Oh my gosh! Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Talking. Thank you.